Welcome back to another episode of Living in Denver. My name is Adam, and I've got a really fun new video today to share with you about 3 things you need to know before moving to Denver in 2023. Stay tuned. All right, so as I said, today's video is going to be 3 things you may or may not know about moving to Denver in 2023. We're going into the second half of the year, and some of these items that I'm sharing with you today are things that you may or may not have considered before, so stay tuned. But before we get started, my phone number, my email, all that info is down below. Reach out. I'd love to connect with you and just learn a way that I could potentially provide some value if you're considering moving here to the Mile High City. And as always, I release videos every week, so hit that like and that subscribe button. You're gonna wanna make sure and get notified every time that I release a new video and about a new topic, all about, again, living in Colorado. So let's go ahead and get started. 3 things that you need to know before moving to Denver, Colorado in 2023. All right, so getting started, guys. Number 1, obviously Colorado's full of a lot of different types of weather, but that's gonna be my first thing to talk about today is weather. So obviously there's additional weather that comes into Colorado. Everybody knows about rain, snow, all that normal stuff. But this year's been crazy. We have gotten a ton of hail. In fact, we've gotten more hail this year than I can remember living here now for 40 years. So the reason I bring that up is if you're considering moving here, there are a few things that you might want to consider. So first and foremost, the type of house you're looking to buy. So if you are potentially gonna buy a home in Denver, there's newer and older neighborhoods. If you're in an older neighborhood, or at least you're targeting an area that's been built and established for a long period of time, a lot of those homes happen to be 1900s vintage bungalow type homes. Some of those don't have garages, some of them have detached garages, and others maybe just have a aftermarket, somebody that's built later on, a carport, a covered carport. So I think that's something that's worth talking about for a second because we've had such crazy weather, and unfortunately it might be like this for a while. We might continue to see more and more of this as the years progress. So just keep that in mind as far as the neighborhoods that you're looking at and whether or not they have the ability or already have covered parking. If you want to talk more specifically about neighborhoods to maybe identify and keep your eye on that are newer, that most likely will have this type of stuff, feel free to reach out. Again, my number, all that info is down below. So though, in addition to just the hail topic of weather, I do also just want to talk about the diverse weather patterns that we have here. So, Colorado always experiences a diverse range of weather throughout the entire year. In 2023, we've really seen a lot of combination of both sunny days, but also these just crazy afternoon thunder showers. So, when I grew up, that was almost a very predictable daily occurrence. Every day we'd have these afternoon thunderstorms roll through. And for the last 10 or so years, we haven't really seen that, but it's coming back. This year, in the month of June, 2023, it's been crazy. I've never seen so much, not just moisture in the air, but also the intensity. We're talking crazy lightning and thunderstorms, just very violent storms in Denver. So just kind of keep that in mind. Obviously, all over the country, we've been seeing a lot of that this year, but Colorado specifically is being, I think, highlighted because it's not only seeing the thunderstorms, but we've also had very intense heat. So it's kind of this combination of both extreme heat, but also a lot of very intense rain showers. And that's coming with that, a lot of that hail that I talked about earlier. So part of the reason for this, obviously, is just the geography. So we have these mountains, broken down right up against the foothills and into the downtown or into the metro Denver area. And we also have high altitude areas. So that combination can lead to a little bit more, violent storms than what you might be used to, depending on where you're currently living. We've also had, above average precipitation this year, going back to that month of June with how much crazy rain we've had. So this year especially, it has been more than normal. So just kind of keep that in mind. Obviously that fluctuates year to year, but it definitely seems like this year has been on the high side for moisture. And again, with the heat, just, last year was very intense. We had over 100 days of 90-degree plus weather. I don't know if we're gonna hit that this year, but regardless, Colorado does have, again, some very intense weather. And if you're not used to that, it's something to keep in mind. So in addition to the, very intense amount of moisture we've had this year, the benefit of that is we're hopefully not gonna have nearly as many wildfires. So, wildfires have been something very big in the news in Colorado over the last couple years. We've had some very intense, very damaging fire. So in addition to the intense precipitation, a lot of rain, hail, all that stuff that's been happening this year, we've also had some very, very warm, high heat days. But the one caveat that I will say is because of all this moisture, hopefully this year, fingers crossed, we're not gonna have nearly the wildfires that we've had in the past. So wildfires, I still, kind of put underneath this weather topic. And, wildfires have been something over the last few years that have been very damaging in Colorado. We had a very big one in Boulder, actually happened almost at Christmas time. It was on Christmas Eve. But throughout the year, 12 months out of the year, we can have wildfires now in Denver. So just make sure you guys are also keeping wildfires, in mind when you're thinking about the weather. And last but not least, just talking for a second about and I think this is a positive if you're considering moving to Colorado, is the variety of weather we have. So Colorado's always been known as having 300 days a year of sunshine. And that's still the case today without a doubt. And I think that's one of the biggest positives of living in Colorado is you have so much sunshine that really always gets you through these crummy portions of weather that we have. So it might be a very bad weather for a day or two, but you always know that we're gonna have sunny days right around the corner. So I will kind of put that as a positive just to kind of end this first topic on weather, just to make sure you guys understand that we do have very intense weather here, all 4 seasons, which is I think another big perk of living here in Colorado. You've got spring, summer, fall, and winter. All have very beautiful colors and just different unique characteristics that keeps life interesting. However, because of so much sunshine that we get here every year, you always know that there's a nice day right around the corner. And you can't say that for a lot of other places in the United States. A lot of places are, bad weather for a week or 2 weeks at a time, and we just don't have to deal with that here, which is a huge blessing. So again, first thing, weather. If you guys didn't already know a few of those things, now you do. All right, guys, going right into number 2, home inventory. So very big topic right now in real estate across the nation, but I think especially in Colorado and in Denver, because Denver has been such a hot market for real estate. So when I say home inventory, I want to talk about a few different things. First and foremost, the home inventory is still very low. So because of that, prices are still maintaining pretty steadily. So you might still be seeing a little slight appreciation, but more than anything else, as opposed to a lot of other parts of the country, Denver is still holding strong when it comes to home prices. However, the supply and demand is something to really consider right now. So obviously with less supply, there obviously is gonna be more demand. And that's basically what's going on right now. We have a low supply, and I think that's basically just because we're in a seller's market. And I think in addition to that though, we also have a lot of issues with buyers not being able to qualify for loans, or at least it just doesn't make sense for them. So, as an example, you might have had a 1.5 to 2 to 2.5% interest rate if you got a mortgage, 18 months ago. Now you're looking at 6.5 to 7%. So just doing the math, the numbers aren't nearly what they were, again, a year or two ago with just the amount of money that you could buy a house with, what your buying power was. So I kind of bring this up because when it's talking about inventory, there's fewer homes on the market and they're sitting a little bit longer because of this. So there's obviously still buyers out there. Most importantly, it's about just pricing the home correctly. And with that, hopefully finding some buyers that are, going to close and get you through to the finish line. So in addition to just the supply and demand that I'm talking about, Denver's always going to be an incredibly popular place to live. No matter how expensive it gets, there are people out there that are going to be able to afford it and are going to value just the location of where they're living enough to pay for the higher priced homes and make that a higher priority as far as their quality of life and where they're living. So that's always going to be the case, which is what one of the things that's so great about real estate in Colorado and in Denver is even if you are paying a top dollar for a home, you have a very, very strong chance that it's not going to be decreasing. It's only going to continue to appreciate. So as long as you understand that with real estate, you got to be in it at least somewhat for the long game. You can't be flipping it a month later. As long as you're holding it for a period of time, that period of time is going to give you that appreciation and you'll be able to come out ahead. So keep that in mind if you're just starting to look at real estate here in Denver and you're a little bit sticker shock, wow factor from what the prices are. So I'm going to end it with one last thing when it comes to just homes in Denver, Colorado, and that is that right now we're seeing a lot smaller percentage, a lot lower percentage of new construction. Obviously, there's a lot of projects that were started a year or two ago, and they're still, progressing forward until they're completed. But as far as brand new construction getting, built right at the very initial phase of that That's not happening like it was a year or two ago. And I think that's something that just contributes to this low inventory that we're seeing right now, is just due to the lack of new construction. So if you're a current homeowner and you're trying to sell, that just means that there's, again, gonna be more demand and fewer fewer other people selling, less product out there for buyers to consider. So something that's good to think about if you are watching this video and you actually are a seller in the Denver market. If you're a buyer though, however, no need to worry. The biggest thing is just finding an agent that's very savvy with negotiating and finding different ways to, present an offer that might stand out among the others. So in a seller's market like it is right now, obviously there is going to be a little bit more competition among buyers. So it's really important just to figure out what is important to that seller and hopefully find a way or two to write an offer in a way that really caters to what they're looking for. And that's what's going to get you guys across and hopefully get the deal done. So again, guys, reach out. I'd love to talk more about that. And then one final thing, just to talk a little bit more about this lack of new construction being done right now. Because of that, there's a lot more interest and a lot more activity right now with renovations and just fixing up existing homes. So if you're considering moving here and again, you're having a hard time with brand new construction, you're not finding much inventory out there, something else obviously to consider is looking at a fixer-upper that hopefully you can identify as a value-add property that has good bones and good opportunity to make the correct types of improvements to improve its value and just renovating it. Especially in Denver and different neighborhoods that are older, such as Highlands, some of the areas just west of downtown that are some of the original neighborhoods in Colorado and in Denver. One of the things that we're seeing a lot there, we've been seeing this for the last 20 years, is renovating these old bungalows and old 1900, 1920, even up to the 1950s and 60s, those vintage of homes, just renovating them. One common thing you'll see is called a pop top. So it'll just be a single story, small 600 to 800 square foot bungalow. They'll take the top off, they'll add a second story. If they do have an existing garage, probably a detached garage, sometimes they'll also pop that, maybe create an ADU, a mother-in-law unit, maybe even something you could rent out on a VRBO, depending on the zoning restrictions. So there's different opportunities like that. Again, if you are looking at Denver and you're just not having much luck when it comes to finding a brand new home or something that's turnkey that maybe you're used to with your current house being updated and fresh and clean and just kind of what your expectations are. So again, if you're having a hard time with that, just consider potentially renovating and thinking outside the box and creating your own home that way. And if you are doing something like this where you're considering renovating or just looking at these different neighborhoods within Denver, it's really important to understand that every neighborhood can vary when it comes to the local market and what areas are appreciating, which ones are stagnant, and even if there are a few areas within Denver that might even be seeing a little bit of a decrease in value. Not very common here in Denver with how much, again, interest we have in our city here, but just want to make sure you guys understand that when you are starting to look at different neighborhoods, realizing that there are a lot of differentiations, variations among neighborhoods. So, more than anything else, just on a quick example of this, a few years ago, so many people still commuted to downtown Denver or to the Denver Tech Center for work every day. As our world has changed and more people are now working remotely, some of these higher value neighborhoods that were close to downtown and just very isolated, easeability for commuting to work every day, some of those areas aren't quite as hot as they were a few years ago. So more people are now also realizing they can live a little bit further out of the busyness of the areas closer into downtown and living a little bit further out into the suburbs and still getting maybe even having a higher value of life as far as the quality of their home, the size of their home, larger backyard, all these things a lot of people find very important. They're able to now, get those types of homes, and by working remotely can be further away from potentially where they might need to just go 1 or 2 days a week to the office. So keep that in mind if that might be the type of job that you have and you're unsure about, again, where to look within Denver. All right, and third and final, the third thing you may or may not know about, it's a very hot topic right now, and that's property taxes. So property taxes, I'm not gonna go super in depth on this, but the top level, why I'm bringing this up today is that taxes right now are a big topic in Denver because in the last, I'd say 6 months, they've been extremely high compared to what's the average or what's the norm, what the expectations are of homeowners here. And that has to do with specifically the assessed value. So it's the assessed value of the home that has been what skyrocketed over the last year. In fact, it's gone up as much as 30% in some neighborhoods. And the thing to understand with assessed value is this is done every 2 years, and the homeowner has the ability to dispute this. I can't do it for you, nor can a lawyer, really anybody else. It has to be done by the homeowner. But what's really cool is that you actually have the ability to dispute what the new assessed value of your home is. And a lot of people have been having luck with getting that number reduced through disputing it. So again, I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself, assuming that you already own a house in Colorado. But just as a tidbit, this is something that's really been a topic of people within real estate and just homeowners in Colorado right now. So keep that in mind. So property tax rates. Well, Denver really varies depending on that specific location of where your home is located, just within the city. But the tax rates are basically expressed in a term called mills. So with 1 mill, that's equal to $1 for every $1,000 of a property's assessed value. So as of 2023, as of this year, the average residential property tax rate in Denver, it's around 87.5 mils. So I know that's just kind of a number, probably hard to understand exactly what I'm talking about here, but just wanted to throw that out there. But really what's more important is just to understand this assessment process. So the Denver County Assessor's Office, it basically is the one that determines this assessed value of properties, and that's in Denver, and it's for taxation purposes. So assessments are conducted periodically. It's usually every 2 years. And the assessed value, it's based on the property's market value, which is determined by considering factors like recent sales prices of comparable properties that have sold, and also just the property's characteristics. So this is when I think it's really important to consider disputing this, is when you're looking at comps, you might not have very many comps in the neighborhood that you live in. You might be in a suburb, you might be in a location a little bit further out where there aren't very many other homes that have sold in the last year. And if that's the case, you have a lot of bargaining power when it comes to disputing what the new assessed value is. And hopefully you can win and lower your taxes a bit. So. But also it's really important just to maybe do some research on property tax exemptions. So Denver offers a lot of different property tax exemptions, and they're also known as abatements. And that's basically things that homeowners can qualify for. And they're usually for things like senior citizens, veterans, disabled individuals, and even just people that maybe are living on a lower income bracket. So if any of those might be you or somebody that you know that's considering this type of stuff, make sure you share that with them, that there are some opportunities to have an exemption. So definitely worth looking into. And then also when it comes to property taxes, it's usually on a schedule of 2 installments. So the first half is usually due around February 28th, and then that second half is due around June 15th. So I know that's not exactly halfway through the year, but those are usually the two dates for property taxes. It's also really just important to know, it's pretty obvious, but if it falls on a weekend or a holiday, it's always extended to that following business day. And just kind of continuing on, just a little bit of facts for you guys about property taxes. The use of where this property tax revenue goes. It obviously goes to a lot of different places, but it helps fund different services, a lot of infrastructure projects in Denver, education, public safety, transportation, again, parks and recreation, libraries, even some social services. So if you are, no matter what amount of property taxes you're paying, I always, make sure and kind of realize that the money that's going out hopefully is going to, be spent in a productive way. So just keep that in mind. And obviously that's, crucial for how the cities continue to improve and get better. All right, guys, so there you have it. 3 things in 2023 to be considering if you are looking into Denver as a possible new future home. Weather, home inventory, and property taxes. So can talk through any of these in a lot more detail if you'd like. Feel free to reach out. My phone number, my email, all that info is down below. And again, don't forget, hit that like and that subscribe button. Every week I'm sharing new tips, new videos, highlighting different neighborhoods, and really just trying to be as much value as I can for people like yourselves that are out of state or potentially just considering relocating here to the Mile High City, Denver, Colorado. Until next week, I'm really looking forward to it. Hope you guys have a good one, and we'll see you then. Bye.